And thank you so much also for meeting with the veterans this evening before, being here with us. And my name is Percy Anderson. And I see a lot of familiar faces here from Gallup as well as McKinley County and all the neighboring communities to Gallup who are here. And I've been asked to do an introduction for Deborah, which is an honor. And let me just formally introduce myself in my way, which is I'm Senachini. That is my clan, and I have family members and relatives who are here this evening. And then Todachini is my Che, and then also Todachini, Bashishchin, and then my Che's are Debethajin, and then my Nollies are Nakai Dine. So that's who I am. So I live here in Gallup, and my family has always been living here in Gallup for several generations, but we're all originally from Manulito, Seattle area, Jones Ranch area, and Lupton area. So that's where my mother's side of the family is from. So the one thing I want to say about Deborah, because I'm going to make it real short here. I let her know earlier that I met her when she was chair of the New Mexico Democratic Party. And that was here in Gallup. Yeah. And ever since then, just following, her being the congresswoman and then the interior secretary, and then now running for governor of New Mexico. And I truly believe we need to have her in office. There is so much at stake for the state of New Mexico. Mm-hmm. And I think that how New Mexico is moving ahead right now, we're moving in the right direction. So we need Deborah to go into that seat of being our governor, and to be there to caretake what is important to us as New Mexicans. And so I want to go ahead and leave it at that and have you come before us. Thank you, Deborah.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe, very much for your service and for your prayer. Thank you, Percy, for your support. So Percy's out there putting signs up and all that kind of thing. So I'm thinking that if you need a sign, you can ask him. I'm so grateful that all of you would take time out of your busy schedules to be here this evening. I'm always happy to be back in Gallup. I've been here many, many times throughout the years, registering voters at the flea market, and then returning back, knocking on doors, making sure that we were helping people to know that their vote and their voice was important. Native Americans couldn't vote in New Mexico until 1948, and so I took it upon myself in my earlier years as an organizer to ensure that we were getting our Native folks out to the polls, because I felt like we were behind in some ways, right? And so I appreciate all of you taking an interest in this election year and coming out to say hello. I'll give some remarks here, and then I will stick around for a while. And if anyone wants to chat with me, I'm happy to have those conversations with you personally. So my name is Deb Holland. Duhinumet Itzatjuitza Shuimi Hanu. I'm from Laguna Pueblo. My Karis name means crushed turquoise. I'm from the Turquoise clan. My grandmother was from Mesita Village. My grandfather was from Jemez Pueblo. And my dad was a third generation Norwegian American. He served our country as a Marine. He started his service as a private and got his commission the hard way, and he retired as a major. So his entire career was spent in the military. And so we moved a lot, and I went to 13 public schools before I graduated from high school in Albuquerque. So his last duty station was in Albuquerque, and we were very happy because we wanted to go home to be with my grandmother. So that was a good thing. I just have always felt like, both of my parents were public servants. My mom was in the Navy, and then she served the Bureau of Indian Affairs for 25 years. So every day my parents got ready for work to go out and serve our country in one way or the other. And they were my role models for what I felt we had obligations to our communities for. And so I'm really proud to have been the chairwoman of the Democratic Party of New Mexico, helping underrepresented communities to get out to vote. I was proud to be the congresswoman for New Mexico's 1st District, thank you very much, where I served on the House Armed Services Committee. And there we helped active duty service members to get the things that we knew they needed. And that's not far from helping veterans to ensure that veterans get what they need. I had a constituent services person in my office in Albuquerque who specifically helped veterans with the things that they needed. So veterans have always been a large part of my life and my purpose, and so I'm happy to be here and know that I want to ensure that you have a voice in state government. I was also proud to serve as the Secretary of the Interior for 4 years, where I managed a workforce of 70,000 people and an $18 billion budget. We conserved public lands. We stood up a clean energy transition for our country. We took 2 species off the endangered species list, so everybody worked hard. Nature is our best ally in our fight against climate change, and we felt that healthy ecosystems were the best thing we could do to ensure that we were addressing the climate crisis. And so I take all of those lessons, all of those opportunities that I've had, and I want to put them to work for New Mexico. Oh, I see. I was like, what is happening right now? It's time for ice cream, everyone. We'll take a 5-minute break. No, I'm kidding. So very proud to serve our country in the Department of the Interior. And I felt when I returned from Washington, D.C., it seemed logical for me to want to run for governor, because I have a lot of experience with big workforces, 70,000 people, and I understand the state has 20,000. With an $18 billion budget, the state last passed an $11+ billion budget. So I feel confident that I will be able to put together a great team and ensure that we are all caring about the state of New Mexico. So I'm running because things are expensive now. Affordability, it's not a hoax, it's a real thing. Things are expensive, and it's hard for people to afford to buy groceries, to pay their rent and buy groceries in the same month. I know what that's like. I raised my kid as a single mom, and I know how difficult things can be. It's expensive to be poor. I say often, I wish I had all the bank fees that I spent when my account went overdrawn. When you had to, sign the back of your check. Now everything's electronic, but you used to have to sign your checks. Everyone here probably knows what that's like, and rush down to the bank and try to make sure that it clears before something comes out of your bank. At the same time, you need to put gas in your car so you can get to work every day. These are challenges that I know people in New Mexico face. And so I want to take on those challenges. I want to make sure that we can have more affordable housing, that there's transparency in how corporate landlords are renting to people here in New Mexico. Sometimes they charge exorbitant fees. They charge really expensive application fees just to be able to rent an apartment. And so I feel confident that we can help make sure that people can live their lives, can pay rent and buy groceries in the same month. If we move our state forward with the clean energy that we have said we're going to, that would also lower utility costs. It would create jobs, it would lower utility costs. Education. I want every child to be able to read sooner. And I know that the Yazzie Martinez case, the judge has come to a decision. Now they're working on a plan, and that's taking a very long time. So I have an idea of getting everyone to the table at the same time so we can hash it out together, so that we can make sure that we are doing everything that we need to for underrepresented students, for students who don't speak English as their first language, for students in Native communities who speak their language as their first language. We need to make sure that we're doing whatever we need to help our children to be able to read sooner, to do math sooner, to have opportunities when they graduate from high school so they don't have to move away. I have this great idea. It's called Every Child Outdoors Initiative, because I want every child to have opportunities to have learning time outdoors, out on the trails, out on the mountain trails, out, down by the river, in the desert, however, there's so many beautiful places around New Mexico. If we have every child having an opportunity to learn outdoors, I think it would really jumpstart their love of learning. And so that's something I'm passionate about and will work on. Plus, we need to inspire our next generation of land stewards. Public safety, everyone should feel safe in their neighborhoods, and so many people do not. I've traveled all over New Mexico. I've spoken to thousands and thousands of New Mexicans face to face, and public safety is an issue that people raise all the time. Law enforcement needs to be able to get violent criminals and illegal drugs off our streets, and we need to get to the root causes of crime. The root causes of crime. Well, what I'd like to do is start the first ever in the country community safety office at the state level, where we are staffing that office with social workers and behavioral health professionals, so that when the call comes in and somebody's having a behavioral health issue on the street corner in Albuquerque, for example, the police don't respond to that. Somebody responds to it who has the experience, the knowledge, and the schooling, the educational aptitude to deal with that issue. Police need to concentrate on violent criminals and illegal drugs and all of the other issues that they are trained to do. We shouldn't be making our police respond to these issues because they are not trained for it. So I believe that this will help the police to be able to deal with the things that they know how to deal with best. Additionally, healthcare, accessible healthcare for every single New Mexican. That is so important in our community. With all the cuts that are coming out of the White House, cuts to Medicaid, cuts to SNAP benefits, making it harder for people to recertify. These are things that cause people just to throw their hands up and say, never mind, I'm not going to apply to these benefits when they know they really need them. One of the things that I think we need to work toward is a public option so that no New Mexican is left behind when it comes to health care. There's an issue here in New Mexico with private equity, and they're taking over our hospitals, and they are essentially putting Wall Street in the exam room along with the patient, and that is not right. We need to make sure that our healthcare is working for every single New Mexican. We need to put patients first. And so accessible healthcare is something that I am very committed to, and I think we can get to a public option so that every single New Mexican can access the healthcare that they need. I'll give you a little update on my campaign, and just so you know, and I want you all to be able to reach out anytime. DebHolland.com, that's how you can send us a message. You can go right there to our website. You can reach out to us. You can request a meeting. You can ask us to come visit you in your community. We answer all of those emails, and we'd be happy to hear from you. By people going to that website, we've gotten 12,000 volunteers signed up on our campaign. And so we have a field director who's starting on Monday, and he is going to start taking those volunteers regionally and activating them so that they can knock on doors, so they can talk to people, they can call people on the phone, that we can get our voters out. I think it's incredibly important to make sure that we are activating voters all over the state. New Mexico is an important state to the rest of the country. We're next to Arizona. They're trying to re-elect Governor Hobbs and keep a Democratic governor there. There are districts in the former president of the Navajo Nation is running for Congress in Arizona. Right there, yes, Jonathan Nez, my friend, who I support. And then districts in Texas and Nevada. These are all areas where if New Mexico is energized, we're going to inspire the states around us to be energized too. So that is my plan. I'm an organizer from way back. In 2012, I opened an office here in Gallup, and we worked out of an office here getting voters all over the area to get out and vote, and so we're going to do that again. So again, I'm so honored to be here. I'll stick around for a while just to say, just if you would like to talk to me, I'd be so happy to speak with you, and you can ask me any questions you want. But before I close, I want to say hello to our esteemed Senator Sharon Pinto, and ask her to come up and say a couple of words.
Thank you, Yonce. So half of Gallup is my district. I represent all the way up to the Four Corners area, District 3. And I see some familiar faces here. It's great to see everybody here. And thank you for coming out. We were up at Shiprock the other day. And one of the things I know right now, I mean, I worked under Grisham since I've been a senator. But with this changeover and some of the things, you have to have the people that want to help and the right people. And if we have someone up there that really has an idea and people that want to work under her, that is very important because we've seen a lot of turnover. So I have seen a lot of turnover, but it's not just about having a good person in there, but that following too of the people that want to work for her. And she's familiar with New Mexico. That's the other part. Some of the things, especially for a leader, is some of the things that have been sitting there on the back burner that need to be addressed. Some of the issues that just need to be explored so they don't happen again. And one of them is about the boarding school. I thank her for doing that because it moves us forward to make changes, especially when we talk about education. And addressing those is very important, but also to have a vision of what we need to do for New Mexico. She knows about rural New Mexico, and for here in Gallup, we're kind of teeter-totter on that as being rural and kind of urban. What I've seen is some of the urban issues kind of overshadow the rural. A lot of times what I'm fighting for is the rural voice. To say, what's working for urban Albuquerque, yeah, it might work for you guys, but it's not gonna work for us. And I hope I have some people's trust here when the way I vote and some of the things, because it's hard to relay all the meetings we go to. And I'm sure she's heard a lot of information through the years, being in these meetings and having an idea of some of the issues out there and people that support it and where they're headed with it. And it's really hard to explain when someone tries to come and ask you, why'd you do this? And down to all the details. It really is over time and being in that realm and learning, it's just part of that. And I believe in her. I believe she knows where we're headed, what she's heard a lot of what our New Mexicans have gone through. And I know there's some issues right now that, they're trying to attack us and take this and take that. I don't think we've really taken anything. What we're trying to do is really create a safe community, create a better quality of life, and we need to keep that going. So that consistency is very important. And I'm a Democrat, And that platform in which we try to follow, it's not always easy because there is the other side of the aisle that you try to work with. And once in a while, that does come into play to get things done, to really have a better comprehensive legislation and work done to make progress. And when we were up in Shiprock, one of the things that was I found very interesting was they asked about culture and our Native American, land and education and teaching that. And I was kind of like, well, but she's Native American. I was kind of like, how is that something as far as a question? Because people refer back to Yazzie Martinez. But if you take a look back about who's been in leadership, not so much to really say they didn't support it, but to really move it forward and get us out of that. That is something we needed a little bit more. We have some voices there. There's a couple of us that fight, but it needed to go higher up the chain. And if she's elected governor, I really believe we're gonna get where we need to be, because there's still some work that needs to be done. Now, I know there's also some other issues around CYFD and a lot of the things that you hear in media. But there's also that other part with our Native American children in that. That the bigger voice is there, but the smaller voice also needs to be heard and addressed, because some of that, what they write and try to implement, too, doesn't work for our Native American communities. And we have to be careful because we have so many in New Mexico. And that is important because that is some of the graphs we've had some of a system already in some sense before anybody came in to try to do any department or legislation, that our people try to take care of each other without going outside of that. So we try to make sure that's also implemented. I don't know if you have any questions for me, but we've communicated. That was very important for me. I know her, I've met her. She's called me about the issues kind of on the same level. The opponents, I don't recall ever meeting them. And I'm the chair of the Senate Indian Rural Cultural Affairs Committee. I sat on the Education Committee, Health and Human Services Committee, Military Veterans Affairs Committee, the Radioactive Hazardous Materials Committee, all these committees and issues for our area. I have not met any of the other opponents. Okay, I really want to stress that, because when I'm in session at the Capitol, that's where I am for 30 days, 60 days. We're practically in that building, sometimes for a very long time, especially towards the end of the session. But to pull me aside, and that takes an effort. But I haven't seen the other candidates do that. So to me, that's important. That would be important to me as your representative, because you put me in this office to represent you. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. Yes?
The issue on Chaco Canyon?
The issue on Chaco Canyon, any kind of protections are necessary. If you know about what's happening now out at Crown Point and Grants with the uranium, if we can protect it, but the other part is, where's the cleanup? Yes, there's some of that economic development, I'm not against that, but where's the cleanup? All this years it's been sitting there, nobody has really, we tried to push to have it cleaned up. I'm not saying that oil and gas or mining companies shouldn't come in here and do, but be responsible to our people. Those that do no harm if you're gonna come in to the land and to our people. But in the past, that's what has happened. But they haven't pushed to clean it up. So if we want to open that door, not really have those protections there, I think we should keep it so until it's gonna be something we can say, okay, let's do it. Yes, sir.
I think
Okay.
Can we let everyone do their own thing, and then happy to, we're
why
happy
can't
to.
you-
I
Why
mean,
can't
she
we
asked
ask
for
her
questions. She asked
Why
for
can't we
questions, and
ask
I got a
questions?
question.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah, she asked
I
a
mean,
question.
everybody wants to hear the answer.
I mean,
Good.
honestly, it's great to have two emerged candidates here today with us, you know. But anyways, we're talking about this Chaco Canyon buffer zone. Now, the Navajo Nation has passed resolutions opposing a 10-mile buffer zone around Chaco Canyon, stating that it would negatively impact Navajo families that rely upon the royalties. That loss has been projected to be in the realm of $200 million in potential Navajo income. How do you justify cutting off royalty income to Navajo Alatis who depend on that money, as well as limiting New Mexico's economy when it pertains to energy production and independence?
Is anybody in here affected by that?
Oh, I forgot to say, I'm from Eastern Navajo. So that is my little area there. So there are Navajo families that are impacted by that. They just might not be here. The reality is that that money that they get elevates them to $27,000 per year. And that is nowhere near livable amount of money. So, and they'll be taking that away from the people that are living in that area.
I know allotment owners. My father's an allotment owner. Who else is an allotment? Who else has allotment too?
Okay.
You have an allotment? So the person living next to you, if they have private land and you need a water line, do you need their permission to run through? Yes, you do.
Yeah.
So it's a very unique situation because we have 18 different land statuses with the Navajo Nation and the land. So to really say, yes, it could be for some, but not all, depending who's living out there, who's occupying it. And right now we know because of some of this mining stuff, there is a hold within the Bureau of Indian Affairs on the probates for the permittees. So if someone passed away and that allotment is sitting there, the children still can't do anything with it until that permit is granted through the probate. How many of those are sitting there? So yes and no. There's a lot of, I think, context and details to it. Any other questions?
If I could just say something, if I could just also say one quick thing regarding that issue. So I'll just say that if you look at the history of this issue, the Navajo Nation actually went to the Pueblo governors, and asked them to help them to protect this area. When we were in Shiprock the other day, the woman who stood up said, "Our ancestors are buried there. It's sacred to us too." So I know that the buffer zone doesn't include allotted land because it can't. It's just federal land. And the state land that also protected the land there, it's only state land. So as Shannon says, there are different kinds of boundaries and lands and all of that. But I just want to take us back to the original intent of why this land was even asked to be protected in the first place. The Navajo Nation and the Pueblo nations, they worked together to protect it. Decades ago, it started, right? This move to protect Chaco started happening decades ago. It's not a recent thing. It didn't just pop up when I was Secretary of the Interior. It's been decades in the making. So I just wanted to raise that to give people some context about the issue.
Well,
Did you
I
have
mean,
a question now?
I mean, there's existing resolutions that the Navajo Nation
Okay.
passed. So
But we've had different administrations. We're even right now in an election for a new president. So some of that, and if working with the Navajo Nation, that's a problem too, in some sense for me, because of the consistency and the change in leadership. I don't want to call it turnover because the people vote for them and put them in there. So it's different for the leaders to fire them and say it's turnover than to have the people elect them and say, okay, this is who we want. So yes and no. I've seen resolutions come in and then rescinded, then something contradicted. we're like this in our government.
So there's not gonna be any Navajos affected by this?
I wouldn't say any.
Okay, so
It's very unique.
how are they gonna take care of these Navajos that actually do lose funding?
We can set up something, but I have not.
But nothing has been
nobody's come
proposed
to
at the
me.
moment?
Nobody's come to me, but it's a federal issue too. So here, yes, with our governor, in the state of New Mexico, but on the federal side, you gotta take that up the line too.
Also, can the other members here ask questions also, if you don't mind?
Yeah, she had a question.
So, there's been a significant discussion regarding your daughter's advocacy work with environmental groups like Pueblo Action Alliance. How do you plan to structure your administration as governor to ensure that family members' professional activism doesn't create a conflict of interest in the state? Because there are several NGOs that provide.
Well, it's freedom of speech, ma'am. So if any organization has a voice they want to speak about, then they should be free to speak.
Sure, but why should
Anybody,
they?
any citizen should be free to advocate to their government.
But
And so
these are organizations from Chicago, different parts of the United
There's-
States that are
and all the
affecting our
yes.
state.
Of course, and all the lobbyists also have a say in all of these things, and they're coming to her every time she's in office to try to change her mind about things. So that's why you elect people who are schooled in the issues, who care about the people they're serving. I care about the people I'm serving, and that's what I will do.
But that's
Thank you
us,
so
we the
much.
people don't want other people coming out and affecting our state.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I appreciate your
We are the
perspective.
people as well.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
Yeah,
have
and
a
we don't
question,
agree with
ma'am. Congresswoman, I've got a question about, I'm a veteran,
Yes, thank you.
and I see all that has affected a lot of our Vietnam veterans, contaminations, Agent Orange. They have never gotten their benefits that they were entitled to, and because of that, we have veterans that need help. And that's why I think the idea was to have a lot of us veterans come speak to you about our issues like that. And I know the gentleman up here is also a veteran. I don't know why he's not asking questions about that, but if you are elected in office, I think my question was, would you support a nursing home for veterans in this area?
I appreciate that question, and I would be more than happy to take a look at that. I'm not gonna make promises I can't keep. I promise to look at it. I promise to value what veterans have done here. McKinley County has the highest number of veterans in New Mexico, in case anybody didn't know that. And so we thank you all for your service, and we would love to sit down and have a chance to chat with you and your colleagues about that issue. And certainly, I visited the veterans home in Truth or Consequences, and it's a lovely place, and it does so much good for the community. So thank you.
You have to have local support too.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, the land,
And I don't know why, like you just said, that we have the highest per capita of veterans from the nation here, from the whole United States.
Yes, thank you.
And with your support, that would be great to have something, because I know that right now the Navajo Nation is struggling to upkeep one of them on the nation. And so,
Thank you.
because we have so many veterans within McKinley County, with your support, it would be great.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Hubert. Thank you all so much. And sure, I'll take one last question.
Sorry. I'm an OBGYN that lives in this county, and I've lived here for 10 years. In 2022, our hospital, which served 25% of the people who lived, of birthing people who live here, closed. And so as a result, 2 out of 3 people who live in this county who are giving birth have to go out of the county. I think that the fact that you've said that you want a public option is tremendous. I think that that is really a huge step towards making care equitable for everybody in our state. I think that part of the issue is that the things that are prioritized by the system as it currently exists are money and profit, and as you say, and don't align with what the community needs, which is really maternal care and primary care. I know that our community is really activated and is really willing to give input and really values healthcare. My clinic, when we opened, didn't provide prenatal care, but when Rehoboth closed, the only barrier to starting prenatal care at this clinic was $20,000 in malpractice, and within 1 week of a GoFundMe, our community raised the money to provide malpractice coverage for 1 year. So I know our community really cares. I think what I guess I'm saying is I really am hoping that in addition to a public option, I'm hoping that you are going to find ways that you can activate community voices like ours to elevate them so that the priorities of the community become the priorities of the system.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for the work you do. I know it's important. I'm saddened by the fact that when private equity takes over our healthcare, our hospitals and various clinics and so forth, money becomes the priority and not patients. And so I promise you that I will do whatever I can to make sure that people can access healthcare. I gave birth to my child with the help of Medicaid. I wouldn't have been able to do it otherwise. So I recognize how important these programs are, and just thank you for caring so much about that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here.